Well, unfortunately, there's trouble in soul music paradise between two of our culture's biggest legends, Anita Baker and Babyface. Anita and Babyface were just at the start of what I felt was one of, if not the, best pure soul music tour of the year. My wife and I went to the show when it swung through Baltimore, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. I posted a concert review in my last video. I heard about the issue in Newark, New Jersey, which transpired a few days before the Mother's Day show that I attended in B-More. And apparently that issue, and I guess some other behind-the-scenes conflicts, have led to the beef reaching its boiling point, at least on Anita's end. So much so that Miss Baker announced a few days ago that she has dropped Babyface from the Songstress Tour. So if you got tickets to the tour, hoping to see Anita and Babyface in Chicago or in Detroit, or when the tour rolls into a number of cities during the latter part of the year, fans will only see Anita, no Babyface. Whether Anita will bring another artist onto the tour as her new supporting act, I don't know, we'll see. So the rift between the two seemed to be over the length of set times on the stage, co-headlining status, and what have you. Who gives the better show? Who has the greater catalog? These questions cause passionate debates, but the answers to both are subjective. Here at Soulful Charts, we're about stats, numbers, data. We have receipts in terms of historical concert data. Well, at least some receipts. So I thought I would simply take a look at the data to find the answer to the following question. Who is the bigger headliner, Anita Baker or Babyface? Now, before I share a handful of data points, here's a few caveats. The concert data I have, the source being Polestar, is the best available and the most reliable. However, it's quite limited for a variety of reasons. A lot of box office data for both artists did not get reported to Polestar, which is typical in the industry. So I had to calculate rough estimates based on posted averages in the data that Polestar did collect from venues, promoters, etc. So the concert data is from US shows only, and only covers the last 20-year period. That means we don't have 80s and 90s concert data, which was when Anita Baker and Babyface, but particularly Anita, was at the peak of their respective solo careers. And we're only focusing on shows in which Anita or Babyface headline or co-headline dates. So when I use the terms headliner, headline, or headlining, I'm including dates when Anita or Babyface shared top billing with another artist. So, let's take a look at a few numbers. Anita has played approximately 202 shows in the US since late 2002 to present. Babyface played approximately 248 shows in the US within the same time frame. Out of Anita's 202 shows, Ms. Baker headlined approximately 185 of those dates. So, Anita headlined about 92% of her dates over the past 20 years. Babyface has headlined about 144 of his 248 shows, or about 58%, or about 58%, of his dates. So while Babyface has played more dates than Anita in the past 20 years, Anita has headlined more dates, about 44% more. Okay, so Anita has sold, on average, 4,000 to 4,500 tickets per show as a headliner, while Babyface has sold, on average, 1,500 to 2,000 tickets per show as the top bill. Keep in mind, This data gives you a general idea of the typical venue size each respective artist plays as the headliner on a show or concert tour. As a headliner, Anita has sold twice as many tickets per show than Babyface. Generally, when Anita Baker headline dates, she plays larger venues than Babyface does when he's the top bill. Okay, so Anita has sold a total of about 900 to 950,000 concert tickets in the past 20 years as a headliner or a co-headliner. So that's nearly 1 million tickets. Babyface has sold roughly 200 to 250,000 tickets as a headliner or co-headliner during the same time frame. So, as a headliner, Anita has sold about 4 times as many tickets as Babyface has. Now, let's talk capacity. 100% capacity means sellouts. 50% capacity, for example, means the venue was half full or half empty, whichever way you want to phrase it. When Anita has headlined or co-headlined a show over the past 20 years, her dates averaged 77% capacity, which is pretty good, while Babyface's headlining dates have averaged 70% capacity, also good. Remember, both artists have sold out many dates over the past 2 decades. 77% and 70% capacity are just averages per show. But also remember, Anita's average capacity of 77% has typically been in larger venues. Anita's headliners have grossed, on average, $250,000 to $300,000 per show. Babyface's headliners have grossed $80,000 to $85,000 per show. So, Miss Baker's headliners grossed, on average, about 3.5 times more than Babyface's. Now, the last stat that we're going to take a look at, total gross. Babyface's headliners, dating back the last 20 years or so, have a total gross of approximately 10 to 15 million, while Anita's headliners have a total gross of approximately 60 to 65 million over the same general time frame. So Anita's headliners have grossed about 4 times more than Babyface's top billing dates. Okay, so now that we went through some data, let me say this. I'm not surprised by these rough estimates, and here's why. Babyface is an incredibly gifted songwriter, producer, and artist. He's just a musical genius, flat out. Plain and simple. There's no disputing that as far as I'm concerned. The man's nearly 50-year contribution to music, soul music in particular, is stellar. Very, very, very few are in his elite tier. And he's had a strong career as a solo artist. In fact, his numbers in terms of record sales, hit singles, certified platinum plats, again, just as a solo artist, are even more impressive than I thought. And I just looked at the data, but that's another video. I actually think Babyface's career as a solo artist is slightly underrated because it's overshadowed by his amazing run as a songwriter and producer. And Babyface is still, as he enters his mid-60s, rather active in terms of music releases and touring. With that said, Anita, Miss Baker, has a truly legendary catalog. Now, it's not as deep as Babyface's solo stuff. Babyface actually has more number 1 R&B hits, but her highly regarded catalog of soul music, spearheaded by the classic album Rapture, has crowned Anita Baker as the undisputed queen of the Quiet Storm. And with that title comes a very loyal and passionate fan base. And I'm not just talking about boomers. Her audience includes young Gen Xers and even older millennials. Anita is famously known for her great live performances. She doesn't tour very often, so tickets to her show are in high demand when she does go on the road. She's one of only a few soulful artists of her generation that is still a strong draw on the road, despite being decades past her peak. Again, Anita Baker and Babyface are both legends. No question about that. But due to his many musical hats, it's obvious Babyface has been a more prolific contributor to soul music. But what's just as clear is that Anita Baker is significantly the bigger headliner on the concert stage. Now, turning to my thoughts on the apparent beef between Anita and Babyface that led to Babyface being dropped from the Songstress Tour. Look, again, as I said, I don't know the fine details of the rift. It seems like seeds of the conflict were planted when Babyface didn't perform on the Newark date due to technical issues which caused a huge delay in the start of the show. Those seeds fully bloomed after claims that Miss Baker was getting bullied on social media by Babyface's fans in the weeks following that Newark date. I don't know, it just seems like there's more to it than that. There has to be more going on behind the scenes that caused Anita Baker to pull the plug on Babyface just a few dates into the tour. Now, to Babyface's credit, he's been a class act, a gentleman, gracious and respectful of Miss Baker, at least publicly. But who knows what has gone on backstage, on the tour route, at the negotiating table, and so forth. Now let me say this very quickly about the apparent supporting act dispute. There is nothing diminishing or disparaging about an artist being a supporting act. The term supporting act is standard in the live performance industry. Agreements between artists, management, promoters, etc. are negotiated in the contract. It's standard. It's expected. Babyface, for example, has been a supporting act for several artists over the years, including opening up for Anita Baker on a couple of dates way back in 2005. And though not very often in recent years, Anita has been a supporting act as well. I will say, Miss Baker does have a history of tour drama, such as the infamous beef she had with Luther Vandross when they toured together back in the late 80s. I did a very deep dive of their beef in a 3-part series a few years ago. The links are in the description. Still, Anita is one of my favorite soul music artists, and Babyface's overall body of work is arguably one of the greatest catalogs in the history of music, period. Not just the soul music genres. And that's why it's so disappointing that these two legends of the culture couldn't make it work. As I stated earlier, the Songstress Tour featuring Anita and Babyface was easily the best concert tour of pure soul this year. The best in a while, actually. Now, fans who attend the remaining dates will only see the queen of the Quiet Storm. So do you think Anita would bring someone else on to open up for her? If so, who do you think it would be? Or do you think Miss Baker would finish the tour by her soulful self? Or cancel the tour altogether? Share your thoughts. Soulful Charts, we got the receipts. Thanks for joining me. Peace.